On behalf of Mr. Stillwell.
I'm moving for a mistrial on Mr. Williams.
Your Honor, we're making a motion for a mistrial on behalf of Mr. Nichols.
We join in that motion for mistrial.
What kind of a mistrial are you asking?
Your Honor, I believe that we were goaded into the mistrial.
And I do not believe that they are purposefully trying to insert error into this trial to make y'all ask for a mistrial so that they can try this case again. So I'm going to deny a motion for a mistrial with prejudice. Would you like a mistrial without prejudice? That means, of course, that the state would be free to try every one of y'all again. What I'm trying to do is fix your sloppiness so that everybody won't have wasted, 10, 12 months of their lives in this trial.
This is gross. This is disgusting. Nothing about this is okay.
I am moving for a mistrial on behalf.
Oh, well, I mean, is it a surprise? Probably not at this stage because everybody started folding, but it is still, I don't know that, I don't know that this is how we expect it to trick or treat. In any event, it's probably, not even probably, this is a win for defense, right? So let's tune into the proceedings from earlier today. I've not had a chance to watch them, but when news broke, I definitely got the news, but I had to go trick-or-treating. So here we go. I do have some pointers. Or at least thoughts about the entire case as a whole, and more so the pleas that occurred within the last week. But before that, let's tune into the Law and Crime Network.
And Mr. Williams.
I hope there are no ads on this, but there are. I'll have to deal with them.
Jeffrey Williams, Jeffery Williams.
All right, come on, get into it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
Are you the same Jeffrey Williams indicted in case number? Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, you cannot be messing up right now.
Have we all signed the indictment, or are we going to do that afterwards? Because I don't have a copy of it.
Miss Love.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't believe that we have.
We have not signed the indictment.
Okay, probably be a good idea to do that.
Does anyone have a copy? Okay.
Where's the one we were using yesterday? We'll do that in just a minute. You can go ahead with the colloquy.
And Your Honor,
All right,
you
come
have the waiver form as well. I believe that the court had one.
Is that a pinstripes? Suit?
I've got blanks. Y'all filled one
I
out,
knew
right?
Whitaker was over this case
Okay.
as soon as she took over. She was giggly. She was giggly in the very beginning, but very quickly she was over this this trial.
Mr. Williams, are you the same Jeffrey Williams indicted in case number 22SC183572?
Yes.
Come on, answer.
And are
On your
you
patience.
also known as Young Thug?
I hope
Yes.
Miss Love doesn't start
Are
walking
you at
around
this
with a
time
microphone.
taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medication?
No.
No.
Is there any medication that you normally take that you have not been given today?
No.
How old are you?
33.
And how far have you gone in school?
9.
Ninth.
Say that one more time.
9.
Okay. Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
All right. Do you understand that you are charged with the following
I'm gonna
offenses?
skip through this.
Conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, participation in criminal street gang activity, the leadership charge, participation in criminal street gang
I don't have
activity
time to listen to
in
Miss
my
Love.
hand.
Yes.
Mr.
I'm
Steele,
gonna
the
skip.
state is unaware of any outstanding issue of the minimum and maximum sentence for each of the crimes that you are charged with and
Yes.
each of the charges that you are pleading guilty to?
Yes.
Ugh.
Your Honor, with respect to the charges that Mr. Williams faces, count one carries
I'm going to take just 1 minute
No,
to
no, no, no,
explain
no,
why your
no,
contribution
no,
right now
no,
is
no,
so
no.
important. This may not
a minimum charge of 5 years
All right.
and a maximum charge of 20 years in prison or up to a $25,000 fine or both.
Isn't it a $15,000 fine? Because wasn't it the version of the statute in effect at the time, or was that the same for RICO? Was RICO 25?
Yes,
Back-
RICO is
okay.
25.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Count 56
I'm sure everybody's glad this is coming. to
carries
an
a
end.
minimum sentence of 5 years in prison, a maximum of 20 years in prison consecutive.
That drug that
I'm gonna skip through this.
Do you understand
Where's the plea?
that neither the court nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole or the Department of Corrections or
All right, skip. All right, this is my first live video. I prefer to pre-record, but I have a lot of videos that are not edited, so this is probably the best. I'll try it. I'll try this format, and my MacBook is full. I have no more space. I have a bunch of videos that I've never uploaded. Maybe I don't know that I would, but oh well.
Your Honor, with permission, may I approach with a member of Mr. Williams' team?
you may.
All right. What's going on? Ugh, they're gonna cross paths again. No, they cannot stand each other. All right, come on. What's
Negotiated plea, the state, and that
this is the important
Mr.
part.
Williams, do you understand that this is a non-negotiated plea of guilty and that since your guilty plea is a blind plea or a non-negotiated plea, the state is making a recommendation of sentencing to the court?
Okay, this
Notwith-
this portion was well played. I know I won't exactly say in theory, okay? I am the anonymous attorney. I am a licensed attorney. I've practiced as both a prosecutor and as a public defender. Currently, I don't practice any criminal law. I do civil litigation. In any event, the way that, let me rephrase that. This is going to come off as a win by defense, but this is more so a play by the prosecution, just based on what I've heard here, right? The non-negotiated plea, this appears to have been the prosecution's at least card. And what I mean by that is because when today is what? Thursday? When the first three defendants, that's not a good way of phrasing it, but the three defendants that entered guilty pleas this week prior to Young Thug, I almost thought that Young Thug would be the last person standing, but I mean, his lawyers are not, they're not stupid. And I don't even think the defendant himself does not realize when there's a good offer on the table. So it was my expectation that whatever offer they'd extend to him would be one that is too good. That's not a good way of putting it. Not that it's too good to be true, but an offer that is enticing, an offer that would allow him to return to his life and not have to deal with this case again. Because I do not doubt that Young Thug's lawyers are the types of defense attorneys that would go blow for blow, and they definitely would have stuck with this case regardless of how long it took.
Standing the fact that this is a blind plea. You understand that, Mr. Williams? Okay.
And
And
obviously, that what that means is that the judge could go either way when it comes to sentencing. The judge is not bound by any agreed upon disposition of this case.
Mr. Williams, were you aware of the state's previous offer that was turned down prior to your making this non-negotiated plea?
Yes.
All right.
All right, and now I am curious. Now I'm curious to know what that offer was, but we're not going to go digging right now. We are not going digging right now. We'd like to see the sentence. Let's go over there. Let's see how this played out.
How much of an impact you have on people. I mean, it's past your neighborhood. It's worldwide, especially young people.
What is she talking
And
about?
having come up from where you came up from and living in and around that, you know that gangs
Come on, Whitaker.
are damaging to our community.
Come on.
And it may be
Get to the
that
point.
a whole lot of rap music and the rap industry is, I mean, honestly, it sounds like a modern day version of kind of WWE wrestling that
What
used to be
the
on
hell?
television, where people would just get up and posture and
I don't know about
act
that
like
analogy.
they hated each other. And it may be that that's a lot of what
I did not
is going
know about
on
that
in
analogy.
the music industry with rap. But
With
whether
rap?
it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who think this is cool. This is what I want to do. Look at him. He's a millionaire. I can do that by being, you know, a gangster in the streets. And that's not true. What you're likely to have happen to you if you're a gangster in the streets is you get shot, you get killed, or you get thrown in prison. And those are, you know, by far the most likely outcomes. And, you know,
Such a negative outlook.
you've been in here watching the trial, and you've seen the pictures of Mr. Ryan posing with a gun as big as he is at 15 years old and going out and shooting and killing another teenager. And that's what gangs do. And that's unfortunately a lot of what rap music does. And if you are a modern day John Lennon, you know,
I'm objecting. I'm objecting to the judge just because I think the word gang as is applied to, I don't even really want to say urban youth, but the way that gang is applied in the criminal context is oftentimes all the time, I really find it overbroad. Because if you know anything about British TV, then you know about Ross Camp on gangs. And that is one of the first, I guess, TV personalities that I watched prior to even going to law school, I think as a teenager. And the interpretation of what a gang is, at least in television and the media, it's it's not exactly, or at least from my perspective, okay? It just seems to be overbroad when applied to Black youth in America. That's my point of view, but I go I go on a lot of tangents, so I'll stop right there.
I mean, he might have rapped too in this day and age. I don't know, but I know you're talented, and even if you choose to continue to rap, you need to try to use your influence to let kids know that that is not the way to go, and that there are ways out of poverty besides hooking up with the powerful guy at the end of the street selling drugs. And
yeah, I don't know.
I know that happens for protection sometimes, but a much better way would be getting an education and setting, hanging around with people.
I mean,
who set a good
obviously, the
example.
defense
you
cannot
beat
disagree
one of
with
those
that,
people
what
that
the
sets a
judge
good
is
example.
saying, because
I
the
mean,
judge is about to sentence
all
him.
right, so that's my high horse on that. I could also go on, but
think
I want you to try to be more of the solution and less of the problem. All right. All right. So it is not lost on the court that the state, had they been able to come to agreement on certain special conditions, was willing to entirely dismiss the RICO count, was willing to entirely dismiss one of the gang counts, and was
Right.
willing to entirely dismiss this, machine gun count. Was willing to give a sentence that permitted Mr. Williams to walk out of the door today,
All right.
and therefore does not seem to be particularly worried that Mr. Williams, if on the streets, would be a danger
Okay.
to society.
So
I'm
going back to
taking that
what
into
I
consideration and crafting my sentence.
going back to what I previously said, this is the sense that I got, right? Because any prosecution, DA's office, state's attorney's office, whatever it is you'd like to call it, that's a strong machine. They have a lot of power. So what Judge Whitaker is signaling here is, because the state was prepared for Jeffrey to basically walk out of the courtroom as a free man, that had a lot of influence, or at least it played some part in the sentence that she handed down. That's what I got from that, from what she just basically said.
And in permitting a NOLO plea to the RICO count and one of the two gang counts, I would not be permitting the NOLO to the one if you were not pleading guilty to at least one of them. But you are, and y'all admit a factual
Yeah.
basis for the counts that you are pleading guilty to. I find there to be a factual basis for those counts, and for the remaining counts with which you are
This was a
charged.
long trial.
I am going to impose a sentence, and I've taken a little bit of the suggested special conditions from the defense and a little bit of the special conditions suggested by the prosecution. On count one, the court sentence is 20 years to serve 5 years, commuted to time served, the balance
Right.
of 15 years to be
Time
probated,
served.
and a $25,000 fine. On count two, the sentence is 5 years
Okay, it is a
to
lot of money.
serve,
It's not much.
commuted to time served. That's the minimum sentence that's permitted on that count. It is required
was a
to be run
small deal.
consecutively. I'm going to run it consecutive to count one, but I am going to backload.
Not
Oh, I'm sorry. That is not commuted. That is 5 years to serve, and it's going to be run consecutively to count one, backloaded, by which I mean after you serve your 15 years of probation, if you have been
a long
successful
time.
on that
Ugh,
probation,
that's a
and
long
I
time.
sincerely hope that you are,
That's a long
then at
time.
the end of that 15 years, I will commute the entire rest of any service portion of your sentence to time served.
Ugh, that's a long
So
time.
I'll get to the end of it and give you the total
It's better than
sentence. But
incarceration, but still.
I'm also going to impose a $15,000 fine with regard to that count. Count
Ugh.
57, 20 years to serve 5, commuted to time served. The balance of 15 years
That's a
probated,
deal.
concurrent with count 1.
Not
Count
every
58,
individual,
10
not
years
every
to
defendant
serve
gets this
5,
lucky.
commuted to time served, balance probated, concurrent with count 1. 59, 5 years to serve, commuted to time served, concurrent with count 1. 60, 5 years to serve, commuted to time served, concurrent with count 1. Count 61, 5 years to serve, that is required to be also a consecutive sentence, so that's going to be run consecutively to count 56 and backloaded. Count 62, 10 years to serve, also required to be served consecutively, that's going to be consecutive
All
to count 61, also backloaded. So essentially, the total sentence is 40 years to serve the first 5 years in prison, but
That's a lot of
commuted to
time.
the time that you have already served, followed by 15 years on probation,
Okay.
followed then
So-
by the backloaded
Okay, it's time served. He's already served time. That's basically what it means. He doesn't have to serve any more time. My main concern is the lengthy period of probation. Obviously, I'm not privy to the probation terms, but probation is very difficult to complete without blemishes for most people, just because the terms of probation tend to be burdensome. Basic things such as not being able to leave the state without permission from a probation officer, having a probation officer show up at any time to check up, basically to check up on you. They get to go through your residence, and they don't need typically when you're on probation, they don't need a warrant for that. Not being able to consume alcohol. I mean, these might not be his terms, but those are usually standard terms of probation. Not being able to consume alcohol, drugs, it for 15 years, that's, oh my goodness. That's a pretty lengthy, it's a lengthy probation term, but it is definitely better than incarceration. But at the end of the day, we should not forget. I mean, all the attorneys in the YSL trial, they definitely fought tooth and nail for their clients. They did a great job advocating for their clients. Obviously, we need to, or they all need to applaud Attorney West. What's her name? Was it Westmoreland? For this, Nicole, because she did a phenomenal job. She was the catalyst to basically all these pleas, or at least generous offers that some of these defendants got, right? Because a lot of you can choose to hate love, but that attorney is relentless. She was going to fight tooth and nail. She was not going to give up. The presentation, to an extent, of the evidence could have been better, probably with more preparation. But then again, there were a lot of moving parts to this case. But Attorney Nicole, she did a phenomenal job. And I cannot wait to see what Shard has in store, because of all the attorneys, I for sure thought, at least as far as cross-examination is concerned, I thought he was the star. I thought he asked brilliant questions in comparison to the other attorneys. I thought that he was always on the money, but this is not about him or his client.
20 years, which can be served in custody and will be served in custody if you are not successful on your probation. If you are
And that's
successful
exactly
in completing your 15 years
That's
probation,
exactly
that
what I was
will be
saying.
commuted to
That's exactly what I was saying. Probation is tricky, and that is 15 years. 15 years is, oh man, I don't know. You'd have to become a saint. You would have to become a saint to successfully make it through probation without having any major violations. That is a lengthy amount of time.
time served. You are to remain
All right,
on
come on,
reporting
Judge.
status for the first half of your probation, active reporting for the first 7.5 years of your probation, and that
Ooh.
is pursuant to OCGA 17-10-1 subsection 2.
That is
I'm
quite
sorry,
restrictive, but
A2A.
maybe if he has the
And
will, he
Mr.
can do
Steele
it.
and Mr. Adams, in order to keep him on reporting status, there needs to be good cause shown. We all
But
can
then
see
again-
the good cause is shown here.
Stipulate.
Again, being on probation and reporting to a probation officer definitely it's definitely better than being confined to some type of prison where somebody tells you when to breathe, when to eat, when to go about your business. Again, probation's not going to be easy, but it's better than incarceration.
All right, I appreciate that. Special conditions of your probation.
What good cause?
Okay, so we're getting
Can I have a
into.
second, Your Honor?
Sure.
Let the judge.
I just want to.
Thank you,
I
Your
just
Honor.
want to know what they're talking
All
about.
right. You had enough time to talk with your attorneys?
Yes.
Okay. All right, special conditions of your probation. After 48 hours from your release, you are to stay away from the metro Atlanta area.
Wow.
And that's defined by the U.S. Census Bureau. It may change,
Mm,
but you can look that up anytime to figure out what that is.
unduly.
For the
burdensome.
first 10 years of your probation,
Oh,
subject to
no.
the following exceptions.
Okay.
You are permitted to be in the metro Atlanta area
Ugh.
to attend any wedding, funeral, or graduation from high school, college, or graduate school of any of your immediate.
Yeah, probation, great. But then these terms, I don't know. Hopefully he's able to make it, but as I said, a lot of these terms are very restrictive. But we're going to keep in mind better than confinement, better than incarceration.
Family members, and immediate family members is defined the same way that you all were contemplating it when you were negotiating. You can get here up to 24 hours prior to any
Where's
such
he gonna
event,
live?
and you need to leave within 48 hours after any such event. In addition, during each year of your probation, I'm going to require that you come to the metro Atlanta area and make a live anti-gang and anti-gun violence presentation 4 times a year, each
Okay.
year of your probation, at a grade school, a middle school, a boys or girls club, anything like
Yes,
that,
that's
that type of group.
acceptable. That's an
And
acceptable
if you
condition.
want to, that presentation can include a benefit concert, and these presentations may count towards your required community service hours, which I'm going to impose, that during each year of your probation, you perform 100 hours of community service.
That's doable.
You are,
that's fair.
and this is required by the fact that there's a gang conviction. You shall not knowingly have contact of any kind or character with any other member or associate of any criminal street gang.
Yeah.
Exception to that, if your brother is a member of any street gang, I hope
Any
you
his other
help him
family
into
members.
getting out of it. Quantavious Greer, and then also Sergio Kitchens, as long as you are contractually obligated to him. that is going to include anybody who is named in this indictment,
Oh, wow.
except as absolutely necessary to conduct the lawful business of your musical career. And to any
That's pretty
extent
broad,
that the
but-
state is not agreeing to the exception for Mr. Kitchens, in the event that that part is not enforceable because it is only a portion of a special condition, going to provide that that be severable from the rest of this. And I'll put some case sites in the Senate sheet for that. You are in no way to promote any criminal street gang or any criminal street gang activity,
Ugh.
including on any social media platform. You are not to utilize any hand
So I guess he
signs,
cannot go on Vlad
terminology, or
TV.
language that
I mean, you're not
promotes
there, I
any
don't know.
criminal street gang.
Terrible
You are not
idea,
to
but
participate in any criminal street gang activity. You are not to knowingly engage in any contact with any of the victims that are listed in this indictment or with
That's
any
stupid.
of their family members. And you may not have in your possession or with arm's reach any kind of a firearm because you're going to be a convicted felon.
Right.
And that is, except I know that you have security and you need security. You can be within arm's reach of a firearm that is in the possession of
Yeah,
either licensed law enforcement
these are
or licensed
conditions that are,
security personnel
they just
that are in
sound
your
really
security
problematic.
detail or anybody that you're performing with.
Even the
Uh,
exceptions sound
You are to
problematic.
submit to random drug screens and not use any drugs unless they are prescribed for you by a licensed physician. You are to execute a Fourth Amendment waiver that will permit the search of
Right.
your person, residence, vehicles,
And
and
these are the conditions that I was referring to prior in this live. Probation is great, but a defendant, I guess after conviction, really a convict, they're just giving up so much of their rights. They're giving up a lot of their privacy. But then again, better than confinement.
electronics for any firearms, any criminal street gang paraphernalia, or any illicit drugs.
Oh my goodness.
And as I mentioned, with regard to one of the first of your co-defendants from this trial, at least since I've been involved, to plead guilty, our Uniform Superior Court rules instruct and provide that it is absolutely proper for a judge to grant leniency in sentencing when, quote, the interest of the public in the effective administration of criminal justice are served, unquote. And I think that this plea is in the interest of the public and in the interest of effective administration of justice.
Right.
Have been trying to ensure that to the extent I can, this trial also abides by that. It's been challenging at certain times.
Right. It was a hot
Um,
mess.
I find your plea to be freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered with an understanding of the consequences, and I accept it as such.
All
I
right.
also need to inform you that your attorneys were going to represent you through either the last day of this term of court or 30 days from now, whichever is later, and any of the filings that were mentioned that need to be filed within that time, they would file on your behalf unless they are permitted to withdraw from representing you before that time.
They're not doing that.
I am not going to impose the conditions suggested by your counsel about the benefit concerts and the donations to the sheriff's office, but I certainly strongly encourage you to do those things
Okay.
and to do and continue to do things that benefit your community and
All right.
especially help young people to stay out of criminal trouble. And unless there is anything from counsel other than that,
I have one matter, Your Honor.
What is that?
okay. And does the state as well?
Your Honor,
I'm
with
sure
regards
these
to
two are
Mr.
glad they
Williams
don't have to
being
see each
permitted
other
to come
again.
to the Metro Atlanta area,
Yes.
or Cleveland Avenue area for funeral or the other items.
Right.
Can you also consider, God forbid, there's a serious medical condition of a person?
Right.
That
In
is,
his immediate family,
yeah.
certainly, we
Right.
can add that. And I also meant to mention,
Still one.
because I know you do travel all over in order to pursue your career, that it's permissible for your probation to be transferred
Okay.
to out of state, and that
Oh,
has to be
that's
done through
wonderful.
probation. But
That's great.
that is fine with the court.
That is a great condition because typically when it comes to probation, interstate probation, misdemeanors are difficult to transfer because the accepting state has to agree. And then felonies can also be difficult at times, or at least they can be challenging in some respects. So it's great that the judge is ordering this.
And you may also keep your, nobody's mentioned it, but keep your passport and travel
Great.
out of state and internationally to the extent that you need to do that for business purposes as
Okay.
well.
That's a fair.
All right,
That's a fair.
Mr.
Well,
Body.
those are fair terms of probation.
District Attorney just wanted me to urge the court, due to the fact that.
What does funny want?
The Thomases have been negatively affected incredibly traumatically by what has been discussed by both parties here today, to make a brief statement as she believes that they fall within the exception or within the bounds of Marston's law. If the court would allow, I understand the court made a ruling earlier.
I'm
as
glad there
relates to
weren't
that,
any ads
but she
on
wanted
this
to,
video.
All right. Thank you. And I appreciate, well, I cannot even begin to understand what they must, anybody must be going through when they lose a family member
Right.
to violence or criminal violence. Mr. Williams himself has expressed his own sorrow to the family. I, again, am gonna
And I think that's one of the aspects of this trial that has been lost by a lot of the viewers. And I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody that was a public defender, right? As from the perspective of a public defender, I never questioned whether my client indeed engaged in the conduct that they are accused of committing, just because it was not my duty. But as far as the YSL trial is concerned, certainly there were a lot of missteps. The case was sloppy in a lot of ways. And that was not just on the prosecution. I think the court, obviously, this is not the original, this case did not originate with Judge Whitaker. But I think the court as a whole, and probably the defense to a certain extent, there could have been better vehicles, or at least better mechanisms in how the trial itself was run. But I think a lot of people overlook the fact that there were, in fact, victims in this case.
stand by my belief that the appropriate time to hear a victim impact statement from them is at the close of the trial that contains the murder count with regard to their family member. All right, thank you. Okay, court is adjourned.
All right.
Good luck to you.
So that's, do they hug?
And I'm going to have any, there
Oh, no
better be
hugs.
no violations, but if there are any, you're
Right.
coming back to see me.
Right.
All right.
I'm Brian
Yeah.
Steele, BRIANSTEE.
I don't know if I want to listen to Brian Steele. I'll probably listen to this in the morning when I get to work. I'll listen to this. I want to listen to the statement, not really a statement, where I have to find the video. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. But I want to listen to the man himself. speak. Right. Let's take a look. Here we go. Let's see what he has
Yes,
to
ma'am.
say.
I take full responsibility for, my crimes or my charges. I want to say sorry to my family, my mom. My mom got 11 kids. I can't say all their names, managers, my kids that's not here. Really everybody that got something to do with this situation, I want to say sorry for just
Remorse.
having so much time invested into
Remorse
this,
goes a long way.
I am a smart guy. I am a good guy, and I really got a good heart. I find myself in a lot of stuff because I was just nice or cool, and I understand that you can't be that way when you reach a certain height because it could end bad, and it don't really have to have nothing to do with you, but it could end bad and it could, fall on you. And I know the choice is yours, it's up to you. And I hope that you
Okay, so he's
allow me to go home
accountable.
today
It sounds
and-
like he's
and
accountable.
just trust in me to just do the right thing and never see you again unless it's at a bar in the future or something. Just out of this type of situation, I
bar.
promise you I won't ever be in
You're
this type of
on
situation again.
probation.
I'm
You
going
cannot
away.
be out there drinking.
I've learned from my mistakes. I come from nothing and I've made something.
Right.
And I didn't take full advantage of it. I'm sorry. Through these last 2.5 years of my life, you are really, truly, honestly, the best thing that has happened to me because you made
Yeah, a judge was
made
over
everything
it.
fair for me and everybody involved on both sides. I'm sorry to the sheriff, everybody for just.
I mean, again, as much credit as folks would like to give to defense, and as much credit as folks would like to give to the court, people should not overlook the power that the DA's office holds over or had over this case, because ultimately it was their call. Whether to make offers, it was their call. And unlike, we're not even going to talk about taxpayer money, but I think obviously things weren't going particularly well for the DA's office. So it made sense for them to extend offers, but that was really their call.
I'm gonna put extra time in. I know y'all got paid more money, but I'm sorry for y'all having to put this extra time in to be away from y'all family, and I just hope that
this was a long
you find
trial.
it in your heart to allow me to.
This trial
go
was
home
so frustrating. I
with
had
my
for a
family
moment
and
stopped
just
watching and switched
do
over
better
to
as a
Tara
person. I
Boone.
know what I
And now I'm really more into
bring
Melody
to the table.
Ferris.
I know what I am. I know the heights I've reached. I know the impact I got on people,
All right, I'm
period,
gonna
in the
have to-
community, all people. I learned that late, like these past 2 or 3 years of my life, I kind of learned that late. And maybe it was because I was
jail does that to you.
probably on drugs or anything. I don't
Right.
know. But I have came to my senses. I understand what I mean to this
Right.
world. But I am a good guy. I don't mind doing stuff like, free shows. And I always did that. I did free shows and gave it to single parents, millions of dollars. I made $1.8 million on a free show, and I gave it all to single parent charity. And I did like 2 or 3 shows that made like $700,000 a piece, and I gave it to the breast cancer organization. I do things like I put millions of dollars back into my community for real. I really did. I did more than anybody ever did from my side, But I understand.
But don't take away from your city
rap
either.
lyrics. I understand how it could be twisted. I understand what it could do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you, I'm 100% changing that. It's just I'm older, I'm grown now, and it's just like
Right.
I'm smarter. It's more things to rap about. Like I've experienced a lot of good things. I experienced more bad things, but I experienced a lot of good things too. And anyway, I can go forever.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate that you do realize how much of an impact you have on people. I mean, it's
All right. So
past your
I think
neighborhood.
a lot
It's-
of this is going to be a repeat just before he gets sentenced. But then again, he was, or at least he appeared remorseful, right? This case was taking a toll on every single person. And a lot of what you're going to hear is how much I hate plea dealing, which I really do. I think overall, plea deals are very coercive, but in a situation such as this, where they could potentially have remained incarcerated for a lengthy period of time, or even possibly retried and having to redo this over, I guess the cop out made sense. The cop out made sense, and frankly, I don't think Judge Whitaker. She seemed, at least from my perspective, she was over this case probably by the second week on the bench, right? But this case, I do not doubt that this case took a toll on everybody involved, every single person involved, from the defendants to the attorneys, to the prosecutor, to the judge, and even all the other the support staff, court reporters, right? So the cop out made sense. A lot of them got, I guess, sweet deals, you'd like to call it. Whether the victims would consider this to be justice or not, that's really something that is for them. I would take it that this is, or at least the offers or plea negotiations would be something that the DA's office would have discussed with them. And then let's see. Yeah, but the defendants were definitely up against a machine, and usually it's a well-funded machine. What else? Do I have any final remarks? Ultimately, I'll just say that kudos. We have to say kudos to Nicole, the attorney that raised or that the attorney that made a motion for a mistrial, because she is really the catalyst to all these not all of them were not negotiated, but to all these pleas. And not even that, the judge, she was over. She was over this trial. And then let's see. I just want to take a look at one more thing. Before I call it. This is past my bedtime, but it's great that Jeffrey's home. It's great that he gets to be with his family. He gets to be with his children. And for the most part, I mean, the attorneys still have work to do. So they have to take on, they have more work that they have to do. They have other cases. That they have to return to. But at least as far as this particular trial is concerned, it's going to be adjusting, because I was about to say that the defendants get back to their regular lives, but they have to. It's a lot of integration or reintegration into society. I don't know how much has changed. A lot, actually. Probably a lot has changed over 2 years when it comes to family dynamics and the like. And again, for the victims, whether this is justice for them or not, that's, you know, for them to, that's for them to decide. And then let's see, I just want to take a listen to Brian Steele before we move on.
Briansteel.
And I'm Keith Adams, Keithadams.
And talk us through the decision to do a plea when
Helicopter silence. There we go. That's drawing out the question. All right, come on.
All right, if y'all don't mind talking us through the decision to make a plea
Right.
and just how today ended up
Accept the
going
plea, not
and
make a
transpiring.
plea.
Well, this was excruciating
Right.
because hopefully, in our collective opinion, Jeffrey would have been found not guilty of everything.
I don't know about all that.
So this is very painful. But that's another 3 months or so in custody.
Longer than
And
that.
he wants to go home to
Right.
his family.
Right.
And negotiations totally broke down with the district attorney's office. Horribly broke down. And at that point, we believe that justice would be found with the honorable court.
Right.
And Jeffrey just wanted to go home.
That was
How agonizing it is.
that was a smart play, right? That was a smart play. That I'll give the defense to go unnegotiated. That was well played.
To know that we've spent a year trying a case where the prosecutors have put on lies, knowing lies, hiding evidence, is insane in 2024 in the United States of America. And the only reason
They did hide the
that
ball.
this got revealed is because of you people.
They did hide
You
the ball.
people brought the truth to the community because nobody knows this. This is not the only courtroom it's happening in. And I
Right.
just want to thank all of you. I especially want to thank Jeffrey for letting me represent him. I think he's a wonderful person who does wonderful things and will continue to do things even greater.
Mhm.
I cannot express to you how Shaquille Kokomo, how Trisha Renard, how Haley, how my wife Colette, how Bram, how countless people, but especially Miss Courtney Edwards, has worked without sleep for 3 years representing Jeffrey and helping him. I will never be able to stand with anyone more ethical, honest, hardworking, insightful, intelligent, and kind than the Honorable Keith Adams. The gentleman to my left is the best lawyer in the country.
Mr. Steele, do you
All right.
think prosecutors negotiated in good faith at all during any of these negotiations?
Let me
with
take
plea
this
deals?
one. Let me answer that. The short answer is no. This is a case that possibly could have been resolved if folks were reasonable.
Right.
But we did not believe that we could enter into good faith negotiations with people who wanted a case resolved in a manner simply to save face. And Jeffrey Williams was not going to say things that they wrote for him, that they wanted him to say, that was their theory when it wasn't true. And so, good faith, no. I don't believe we were ever really negotiating in good faith. And you've been here the past year that this case has been on trial. You've seen the numerous motions for mistrial.
Right.
You've seen the behavior of the state. You've seen the dishonesty. You've seen everything being hidden. You've seen things come out in court in front of you. And so you know what kind of prosecution we were dealing with. And that's okay. You know, Mr. Steele and I have fought through this the past 2.5 years. And as he said, we ultimately decided we were going to put our faith in the court.
Right.
As
That
opposed
was a
to
good
the folks
move.
on the other side of the aisle.
That was a good move.
And, you know, the best thing out of all of this is that Jeffrey Williams, in a very short period of time, will be home.
I mean, it worked out in their favor, but it could also have gone horribly wrong. But that was well played. That's
And that's
the risk
all we
they're willing
wanted
to
from
take.
May 9th when they went and picked him up and have held him in jail without a bond for the past 2.5 years. He'll be home shortly.
Keith and Brian, this either one of you can answer. So I have 2 questions for you. First off, you go into a blind plea, you don't know,
Right.
There's nothing for sure. What was your emotions like when you guys went into that? I would imagine the conversation, you kind of take us into the room before you went out into court, what the conversations were back and forth. Obviously, I know there's attorney-client privilege, but it's a big decision.
Well, I didn't want to give up the jury trial.
Yeah.
But that was a decision made. And once that decision was made, we were just thankful that there are people like the Honorable Judge Whitaker who understands what a trial is like and what it should be like. And I cannot thank the Honorable Court for being here.
I mean, obviously that's a jab at Granville, so but it's what it is.
And coming in, she is not our first judge.
Right.
She's the first time we received justice.
Mr. Adams, this is your second high-profile RICO case here in Fulton County. Do you think that maybe the prosecutor's office is abusing that statute? And what are your opinions of RICO generally?
I have, for the 30 some odd years that I practiced law, always believed that if you, as a prosecutor, think that someone has committed a crime, you charge them with the crime, you put it in front of a jury, and then you do it fairly and let the chips fall where they may. The courtroom is not the place to get adventurous, to get inventive, to think, well, we don't have evidence on him for any of these incidents, but maybe, if just maybe, we tie him up in a RICO and put him with people who may have committed crimes, we can get him that way. That's an abuse. And so, yes, for some strange reason, the Fulton County DA's office seems to be in love with RICO. And my honest opinion is that they're in love with it because it makes it easier for them to try and convict people that they otherwise could not
This
convict.
is the case with
And that's what was happening
conspiracy.
here. We're fighting a mountain, reams of evidence, most of which didn't have anything to do with us. And so is it an abuse? I think it is. There are better ways to, and I used to be a prosecutor, right? And I can tell you that there are better ways to prosecute cases than the way this case was prosecuted.
You guys obviously rejected initially what the state was going to offer. Is there some details you can give us? Because it sounds like from what you guys decided in the court, I mean, it's still pretty stringent. There's a lot of different details, but what was the state asking for that you guys rejected?
Right. I want to know that.
I'm not going to get into plea negotiations because they are privileged under statute, but it was outrageous.
I'd have loved to know what.
They would let him out of custody.
They did what?
But they would have a tether around him so tight that it's unconscionable.
And how are y'all feeling about what the sentencing is, especially with not being able to be in Metro Atlanta except for specific parameters? And how is Mr. Williams?
I mean, that's probation.
You know, we're okay with the sentence.
Yeah.
There comes a time in any case, if a person is sentenced, that we're out of the courtroom, and now what happens to that person is entirely up to them. Jeffrey Williams is a fantastically talented man. He is a great person. He's become a great friend over the course of the last couple of years. And he has the ability, the incentive to go forth and do everything he needs to do to put this behind him.
True.
And we're confident that he will. One of the questions you asked a little earlier was, what was that feeling like stepping into a courtroom to do what's called a blind plea, not knowing what's going to happen?
Right.
You know, it's a scary feeling for all involved. There's probably no feeling quite like that other than sitting in a courtroom waiting for a jury to come
I was
out
just about to say
and tell
that.
you what your fate is. But we walked in there knowing that we were in front of a fair tribunal and being comfortable that the right thing was going to happen, and the right thing did.
What do you think about your client just serving as a role model? Obviously, as part of
All right, so I am pressed on time. I quickly just want to take a look at what Jeffrey's parents had to say about, him coming home or going home. I don't live in Georgia, but I don't live in Georgia. Let's see if we can find that quickly. I'm probably gonna do 5 minutes or something, but I know I've been extending time. I do need to wrap it up. Let's find his father. All right, let's tune into that.
Would like to say a few words. His father, Jeffrey Williams Sr., would like to say a few words.
Big Jeff.
You can look at me or whoever asks you a question.
It don't make no difference.
No, you just want to talk.
Yeah, y'all can ask me a question.
I think everybody's set up. Yeah, so if you just, what were your thoughts when you heard that your son was going to take a plea?
Well, I was kind of startled behind it because I was in agreement with Brian and Keith. You know, let's keep fighting. You know what I'm saying? You know, let's make them continue to embarrass
jurors
themselves. You know,
are unpredictable.
At the same token, my son is I've never tried to interfere with his decisions. I just try to give him the knowledge of making the best decision that he sees fit for him. And I support it.
And so what was it like?
That he's going home?
I feel great that he's going home.
Right.
I feel great that he's going home, but at the same token, I still wanted to fight. But that's his decision. That's his decision.
All right, so Jeffrey is going home. He's going home. That's great for him. It's great for his family. It's great for the other defendants. I'm glad this trial is over. Again, the victims in this case, or the victims' families, might feel differently about this, but it was not going well. It was not going well for the DA's office in this case. That does not exactly mean that he likely would not have gotten convicted, but it would be interesting to hear from some of the folks that were on this jury. Obviously, they're not required to talk to the media or talk to anybody else, but it would have been interesting, or it would be interesting to find out. I'm not necessarily interested in the identities, but I want to know, do they still have jobs or are they retired? What's going on with that? In any event, I'd just like to know what their sense of the case was, right? That I'd like to know how they thought the state or the prosecution, the DA's office, was doing as far as their presentation of this case. Other than that, I'm signing out. This is much longer than I had anticipated. I'm going to try to be consistent, but I am an attorney. I do have a real job. Typically, I watch trials as I am working my day job, but only when time allows. In any event, I just wanted to hop on here, try out this live stream. This was my first live stream, by the way. In any event, this is me signing off.